Welcome to a camera comparison with two phones that have been out for a while now. It's the iPhone 15 and the Samsung Galaxy S24. So a lot of firmware updates, big improvements to the cameras over time, and I want to see which one is best at what. So I'm swapping over the audio sources here. Stabilization with the front-facing cameras is looking good on both of them. Short jog here to see which one's the steadiest. And of course I'm swapping over the audio sources, and both phones are on the latest firmware. First up with the rear cameras is our ultra-wide cameras. So it looks like the iPhone is slightly wider, better field of view, but marginally better here. So they are using both of them electronic image stabilization. As I walk down these stairs, you want to see which one is the steadiest, has the best stabilization, the more fluid video. And when I pan around now, we shouldn't see any judder with these ultra-wide cameras. Main camera now, so the main cameras here are using electronic and optical image stabilization. I'll just jog down these steps to see which one has the best stabilization. And there's a very light breeze at the moment. Now that shouldn't be picked up by the microphones of any of these phones here. And I'll apply a bit of digital zoom now. So this is 2 times. The Samsung goes to 3 times. And bring the iPhone up to 3 times zoom as well. Now, if you're wondering where I'm filming, this is a place called Las Rotas on the Mediterranean coast here of Denia. That's the town. Now, low light video, this is 4K, 30 frames per second on both, even though, yes, the S24 can shoot 4K 60 and even 8K 30, the iPhone cannot, so I've got to keep it fair here. And normally in low light, you really do want to use just 30 frames per second. At 60, it probably wouldn't look as good as this does. So I want to judge here the lens flare, which is a bit of a problem with the iPhone. I can see that the S24 does not suffer as bad as this iPhone 15 does with the lens flare. It seems to be a little bit better there. But which one is the smoothest here, least amount of noise? Oh, I can see more lens flare. I don't really seem to be seeing any. Maybe a tiny bit with the S24, no, but definitely there. And a problem with our iPhone 15. Focus on both, in low light seems to be right, but you can see now the stabilization not looking as good as daytime footage, which is normal. Now on to our stills. First up, portrait photos. The iPhone, typical iPhone, it is more warmer. The more correct skin tone and white balance is the S24, however, it's a little bit overexposed. And then look on the left side of the hair on my daughter's shoulders there. You can see the stitching on the Samsung, very poor. So it's the iPhone that takes the better portrait shots. With portrait photos, it's slightly different here. You can see the skin tones, I would say a little bit warmer with the Samsung and more true to life with the iPhone. It normally isn't this case. Normally the iPhone's a little bit warmer. Background blue looks better with the iPhone versus the Samsung. Samsung has possibly a few more details that I can see, a little sharper there. With this photo of my cat Vera, the focus was, as always, that I'd use is her pink nose. I tapped that with the Samsung, but it didn't quite get that focus right. And the colors on the Samsung a little bit more oversaturated compared to the iPhone. Because of the focus, because of the colors, it is the iPhone that gets the win with this shot. This photo of the bright red hibiscus flower, there is a bit of oversaturation with the Samsung, especially the greens. They're a little bit darker than what they really are. However, the petals on the flower are better captured, less clipping with the Samsung versus the iPhone, so a better shot with the Samsung. Scenic shots with the main cameras. I did notice that the iPhone just took, I think, a better photo. A little bit more detail coming through, although the shadows with the Samsung have a little bit more detail to them coming through. The iPhone crushed the blacks a little bit there. The colors were the best too on the iPhone. This is more true to life here versus the Samsung. That was using HDR, and we have it again here with the ultra-wide. Now, the ultra-wide cameras look very similar at first, but if you have a look at that cliff face to the left of it, the clouds are captured slightly better with the iPhone 15. Yes, I'm nitpicking here. And then the details in those rocks, the clay, the dirt really, that's on the right-hand side comes through a little bit better with the iPhone 15. So I like its ultra-wide photos just a bit better than the Samsung. One more hibiscus flower in direct sunlight this time, and it is a light pink flower, which the iPhone captured a little bit better there. So the colors on the iPhone, I think a little more true to life for what I was really seeing there. Samsung a little bit oversaturated. Both of them are exhibiting a little bit of clipping when it comes to the pink color. It's a little bit overpowering. Saturation is a little boosted there too as well. But in general, I think with this type of shot, bright flowers in sunlight, the iPhone. An indoor HDR shot, so which one captures the scene the best here? Well, the Samsung feels a tiny bit over-sharpened. There's a little bit more noise in the iPhone. And you'll see where the window is on the left, the outside there, and just the window in general, is captured better with the HDR with our iPhone. So that gets the win, the iPhone again. One area where the Samsung is always going to excel, and that is zoom photography. So at 5 times zoom here with both of them, looking at the castle of Denya, the Samsung is better here because it has the 3 times optical zoom. So it's not as digital, not using as much digital zoom that we do have with the iPhone, which loses with this. So if you take a lot of zoom photography, you really want to go with these two phones with the S24. Over to low light, which is pretty difficult. I use the night mode, of course, with the Samsung. The iPhone does it automatically with a longer shutter rate to let in more light and details, and it relies on its stabilization, which is optical with the main camera here. If you look at the stairs, look in the middle of the stairs there. You see that with the iPhone versus the Samsung here, the Galaxy S23, there are fewer details with the Samsung. More details captured, overall just generally better exposed with our iPhone with this particular photo. But what I did discover is that the white balance during nighttime, night shots, low light, it is generally the Samsung that does a better job. Note that where we have the right side of this picture, that should be a warmish kind of color, which came through a little cool on the iPhone. And the iPhone here has a little bit more noise, I noticed, versus the Samsung. Then finally, with this last shot, it's very obvious that the white balances are different here. The exposure is different. Now, the Samsung did get the white balance correct. It should be this warmer looking color here. That's what it's like with this bar on the marina there. Whereas the iPhone, it looks a little more realistic. That's kind of how I saw it, but it should be warmer. Now, the Samsung captured some of the trees there just a little bit better. You can see all those details around there. So there's a big difference there. I think in general, the more low light photos that I take, Samsung will normally come out on top with low light photography. Here were my findings. So it seems some things have not changed. Video quality with log footage and the rear cameras, I felt the stability and the frame rate was overall better with the iPhone. But the iPhone doesn't have 4K 60, the iPhone 15, it does not have 8K 30, which the Samsung S24 does have. Microphone quality for audio, I think, was a little bit better, richer sounding with the Samsung. Low light photography, that went to the Samsung in general, but not all of the time. Portrait photos, by far better with the iPhone, just better stitching, a little bit more pleasant, and the exposure was more spot on compared to the Samsung. It tended to be a little bit overexposed at times. Ultra wide and main camera, I lean towards the iPhone. I do think that those photos were looking a little bit more detailed, slightly better HDR indoors. So that is really the difference. If you take a lot of video and portraits, go for the iPhone. If you take a lot of low light photography, and zoom photos, then you want the Galaxy S24. Thank you so much for watching this review, camera comparison here. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.